Daniel LaPlante was born on May 15, 1970, and grew up in Townsend with his mother and stepfather. Daniel was sexually psychologically abused by many adults in his life. His father was responsible for the majority of the abuse, while some of this abuse was as a teen at the hands of his psychiatrist. He attended St. Bernard's High School. He was diagnosed with dyslexia at an early age, and his classmates called him creepy and weird. As a teenager, he was referred to a psychiatrist because of his abnormal behavior, his appearance, and his lack of hygiene included. He was a notorious local burglar, and through this he reigned terror throughout the town. By the 1980s, a neighbour had grown concerned over Daniel's various solo excursions into the woods behind his home. They said, "You'd see him walk out there by himself. That's the only place you would see him, the woods." He was also diagnosed with hyperactivity disorder by the same psychiatrist who sexually abused him, and this was when the thieving started. At 15 years old, he would break into homes during the evenings, stole valuables, but then he started playing mind games. Daniel began leaving things behind and moving things around the homes to scare the homeowners. In 1986, his mind games turned to hell when he became obsessed with 15-year-old Tina Bowen. They attended the same school, and Daniel had taken her on a date over the Easter break. When Tina returned to school, some students told her that Daniel was facing rape charges, and according to her father, Frank Bowen, that it was the end of this boy's life. Over several weeks in late fall 1986, Daniel had gained entry to the Bowen home at 93 Lawrence Street in Pepperell near Townsend. From a small crawl space no wider than 6 inches, he initiated psychological torment on the family. After he watched Tina and her sister trying to contact their recently deceased mother on a Ouija board, he began to impersonate their mother. TV channels were changed, items were rearranged, milk consumed. He even emptied bottles of alcohol without drinking them, and scrawled really disturbed messages like "marry me" and "I'm in your room, come and find me" on the walls in mayonnaise and ketchup. A knife was found pinning a family photograph to the wall. Frank Bowen believed his daughters were with each other when those messages appeared, but he would soon learn that it was far worse than that. On December 8, 1986, the girls returned home to find someone had used their toilet. After a search by their father, Daniel was discovered in a wardrobe with a face painted, wearing a Native American-style jacket and a ninja mask, and brandishing a hatchet. Daniel got them into a bedroom before disappearing somewhere in the house. Tina escaped through a window and contacted the police, who found Daniel 2 days later in the cellar of the house. Hiding in a triangular space in a corner, bounded on 2 sides by the concrete foundation and an inner wall, Daniel had clearly been living there for weeks. Following his arrest at the Bowen house, he was held in a juvenile facility until October 1987, when his mother remortgaged her house, ensuring his $10,000 bail. 2 months later, he was going to commit his worst crime yet. While awaiting trial, Daniel moved home and continued his daytime burglary spree. On October 14, 1987, he stole 2.22 caliber firearms from a neighboring home. On November 16, 1987, Daniel burglarized the home of the Gustafson family, but this wasn't the last time he would break into their home. On December 1, 1987, Daniel entered the Townsend home of Priscilla Gustafson, a nursery school teacher. Daniel walked through the woods separating his house from the Gustafsons' house, armed with a .22 firearm. He later claimed he didn't expect Priscilla and her children to come home. According to retired Pepperell Lieutenant Thomas Lane, Daniel considered jumping out the window and escaping. Instead, he confronted Priscilla with the gun and led her and her son to the bedroom. putting 5-year-old William in the closet and tied Priscilla to the bed using makeshift ligatures and gagging her with one of his socks. Priscilla was pregnant at the time, and she was found face down on her bed, pillows covered in her blood. Daniel had sexually assaulted her and shot her multiple times at point-blank range. He then took William into the bathroom and drowned him. As Daniel was leaving, he encountered Abigail, who was 7 years old, and she had returned home on the school bus. He lured her into another bathroom and drowned her as well. He was 17 years old when he brutally murdered Priscilla and her 2 children. After the murders, Daniel simply returned home and attended his niece's birthday party that evening. Meanwhile, Andrew Gustafson had been calling his wife all afternoon. He returned to an eerily quiet home with no lights on, and he feared the worst. He first found his wife dead, lying face down on the bedspread. Then he fled the house and called the police. He later reported that he refused to go looking for his children because, as he said, "I was so afraid I would find them dead." According to court documents, Daniel was easily implicated. He left the shirt and gloves that he had worn to drown the children in the woods behind the house that was still soaking wet. With the scent of the shirt, dogs tracked Daniel through the woods to his house. The evening after the murders, he was interrogated at the station. Lacking enough evidence to arrest him there, police planned to return the following day, but to hear that Daniel had fled and a massive manhunt had begun. After another burglary spree in Pepperell, Daniel was found hiding in a dumpster and arrested on the evening of December 3rd, 1987. Daniel went on trial for the murders in October 1988, and a jury found him guilty of murder. Daniel was sentenced to 3 life sentences for the murders of the Gustafsons. On March 22, 2017, a re-sentencing hearing was held in Massachusetts. He had asked for a reduction in his sentence. At the hearing, it was mentioned that during his first appeal, previous court rulings were cited saying that juveniles convicted of murder should be given a meaningful opportunity to re-engage with society. There was also a new law allowing juveniles convicted of murder with extreme cruelty and atrocity to ask for parole after they have been behind bars for a minimum of 30 years. The judge, however, continued Daniel's sentence of 3 consecutive terms of life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 45 years after a forensic psychiatrist evaluated Daniel and found that he was not remorseful for his crimes. That's all for today. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll definitely see you for the next one.